Howdy out there. Welcome to Google Earth Prospector. This particular episode we're going to be discussing a lost treasure in the United States, in New Mexico, called the Larue treasure. Now, this particular treasure is located near the White Sand Missile Range in the San Andreas Mountains, near Victoria Peak, which is, as you know, maybe one of the most famous lost treasures in the history of lost treasures. This particular video is not about Victoria Peak, but one can't help but mention it, as we'll be dealing with it in such a close proximity to the Larue location. Anyway, so I guess I should explain that a little bit. So, without further ado, let's delve into a little bit of the history of Larue and the origins of this treasure. Father Larue was a Frenchman and came to Mexico with the Spaniards to work among the Indians and peons at a large settlement near Chihuahua in 1798. It was here that the priest learned of a rich vein of gold from an aged and ailing man who had traveled the country to the north extensively. Before dying, he told Larue, after one day's travel from El Paso del Norte, you will come to 3 small peaks yet further to the north. Once again, the 3 peaks make an appearance. Upon the first sight of these peaks, turn to the east and cross a basin where there is a spring at the foot of a solitary peak. On this peak there is a rich vein of gold. When crops failed at the settlement, the Padre led his flock to the north to work the gold. Arriving at La Mesilla, they sighted the 3 peaks and turned east across the Jornada del Muerto and into the San Andreas Mountains. After searching the spring and the solitary peak was found. Undoubtedly the place was Hembrello Basin and Soledad Peak, aka Victoria Peak. For many years the priests and his followers worked the rich vein tunneling into the mountain, and as they followed the vein, all the mine gold was smelted into bars and stored in a huge cavern which was part of the mine. When word reached the church officials in Mexico City that Larue's colony was missing and the settlement abandoned, soldiers were sent out in search for the party to the north. The Padre knew that he had left his post without permission and realized that he would be severely punished for not delivering the royal fifth of his gold to Spain, if he were discovered. When word was received that the Spanish soldiers were headed towards their mine, Larue ordered all traces of the gold hidden and the mine sealed. When the soldiers arrived at his campsite and demanded to know where the gold came from, they used to pay for supplies in Mesilla. The colonists refused to divulge any information. After a search failed to locate the gold, soldiers opened fire on the peons, who were badly outnumbered and poorly armed, and the engagement turned into a massacre. The soldiers returned to Mexico City empty-handed and told the story. Another version, as to the demise of Padre Larue's colony, claims that a fierce thunderstorm loosened the cliff above the cave, and a landslide buried the Padre, his gold mine, and the cavern filled with stacks of gold bars covering all traces of the site. So, as I mentioned earlier, in digging through my extensive treasure collection, I came across the documents of one Orrin Swingerton, a treasure hunter in New Mexico, who looked for the gold on Victoria Peak, apparently saw it, and he was obsessed with mines all over the Southwest. He was obsessed with the Jesuits. Jesuits were his passion. I got lots of correspondence to do with that, and him. But anyway, what we're looking at are these documents here. And these documents are written by one Dick Richardson. Okay? And Dick Richardson's involvement in this treasure story is that he was once partners with Doc Noss. Doc Noss is the discovery of the gold inside Victoria Peak, which is right near the Larue treasure location. They're not too far apart, they're too close together. But anyway, I'm off topic here. Anyway, this Dick Richardson, who's the writer of this letter, talks about where he buried the gold with Doc Noss that he recovered from Victoria Peak, and that he was going to go back and retrieve it, never did, and then maybe the army got it, maybe they didn't. Anyway, getting back to our search here for Father Larue, and as I knew Victoria Peak would be a huge distraction, this goat shed here, this is actually the location where Dick Richardson was said that Doc Noss buried, him and Doc Noss buried the gold. The old goat shed right here, marked on Oren's map. You can see this area on Google Earth as well. It's, well, it's right around here. This area here, on Google Earth, this road might have led where the shed used to be. Now, I'm not sure if this shed here is actually a metal shed or a rock ledge, because they refer to sheds as rock ledges as sheds from time to time in this particular papers I have here. So anyway, this might be where, because this road here kind of just goes into nowhere. This might be where it was right here, where Doc Noss and our friend here, Mr. Richardson, may have buried gold. And that's the letter is to this guy named Joe. What's important about it is it describes also the loose site. Let me read this to you here. Apparently the loose site is marked. I'm sending you the only photo that I have of the door. The door to Casa de Oro, the Tunnel of Gold in New Mexico. Raised work on the door cannot be seen with the naked eye, but it does show plainly in enlarged photo. You will need bright light to read it. A male lion's head and a female looking at you right in the eye. Also a big cross raised on the rock door. Diamonds cut within diamonds too. All of this was plastered over so that it looked like the rest of the back wall in this shed. Rock shed, that is. The old chief is buried crosswise on the second step down. His skull lays there nearby. See photo. I don't have the photo. We sent the skull to the Smithsonian. They said he lived over 5,000 years ago. Rest of the bones still there, covered up in the hole. When I left, the last, of course, I don't know how it is today. I covered up best I could. This is located in, very few people go there. Anyway. Yeah, so that's talking about the rest in this document, okay? You have, in this document, you have the following. A drawing by Oren, okay? You see, found in Hambrello Canyon, as called for in the Spanish archives. Apparently, there is a document in the Spanish archives, a real one, that talks about these carvings. My drawing photo in possession of Letha Guthrie, stepdaughter of Doc Noss. Okay. So, what these markings are, is they mark the entrance to the Cave of Gold, where you will not only find stacks of gold bars, but you will find the body of one Father Padre Larue as well. And there's a guy out there who's seen it. It's not my video, not mine to talk about, but it's out there. Just Google "found the treasure of Padre Larue," and he'll talk about what he saw. He talks about finding his particular treasure underneath a church. But as the story goes, behind these markings is the entrance to the Larue treasure. That's what these. Let me get more of them here. Like, you can see if you look closely at Oren's papers, they come with a map. They come with a map to Father Larue's camp. Now we take this information and we compare it to Google Earth. Let's see what we find when we go and look, shall we? So what interests us the most here? Okay, there's Victoria Peak on Oren's map, and up here is Father Larue's camp, and here are the box with the lions right in here. You can see where he's got it pointed. Now the box with the lions, as we were discussing earlier, here are the boxes with the lions close up, drawn by Oren. From the archives of Seville, Spain, clues marking the entrance to the tunnel which leads to the cave of gold. Oh, fuck. Man. When you look closely at Oren's map, what you're most interested in is the box with the lions. The box with the lions marks the entranceway to the Cavern of Gold right here, where you can see the X's are. And if you go up to Google Earth, those same X's can be found right here, right in this area. This is the location of the entranceway to the Cavern of Gold of Padre Father Larue, according to Oren Swingerton, great American treasure hunter. So if this right here is the location where Father Padre Larue had his camp and where he had his vault of gold, where did he get his gold from? Some say he got it over by his first vein, which we pointed out earlier was over by Victoria Peak at Spirit Springs, where he found color apparently, and possibly in here as well. And there's a story that there was an avalanche near the location which came down and covered his gold. So if we know that this is one of the areas where Larue was caching his gold, the other area, of course, is Victoria Peak itself. He was caching gold in there. In Victoria Peak, Ova Nos said she found gold that had Larue's name on it. So he's probably stashing gold in both places. But anyway, he's stashing gold, so he's also finding gold. Where was he finding gold? Victoria Peak, in this area. Geronimo Peak, the Indian burial site, which is the Padre Larue, also the Padre Larue location where we were on Google Earth. And just south of that, he marks a canyon. This is the canyon where Larue was getting his gold from. The placer. Now let's take a look at what this looks like on Google Earth, okay? Hold on. So as I showed you on that other map where it was marked canyon, okay? Right up here is where Larue's treasure vault is. Going further down the canyon, this is a road, this is a dried up riverbed. Going further down the canyon, because it was down in this canyon where he said he found gold. Look at the, let's just take a look at the rock. Now, it looks really gold bearing. It's like bare, open bedrock, rusty with tons of cracks. I wonder how thoroughly that was mined. I wonder if there's gold left in there. But you go further down into this canyon. Of course, it's lots of rusty. So when you go into this canyon, take a look at the geology, at the rocks. It's bedrock. Rusty bedrock. In a bend in the river. You might want to look for gold there. I bet you there's nuggets in there still. And you go further down, you just look at it. Would you look there? That looks just fantastic for gold in the bedrock. Looks old and crumbly. Okay. And then you go further down and you've got this. I don't know, is this a slide or is this just a bedrock? But then you go further into this gold canyon. I'm going to call this Larue's Gold Canyon. Okay? This dry riverbed now. So that's the road. You see you can see here, right? You go up top. You see the road comes down. Sort of. Look at the ground. Look at it. As a prospector, look at that. And you keep going. And then you go up on the ridge and you find this. I called it Larue's smelter. I don't know if it's a smelter. Is this the ruins of a church? Is this a ruin of something completely unrelated to Larue? What's it doing here? It was clearly man-made. If it's a church, there's also the story of that other treasure hunter who said he found Larue in a cavern underneath the church with a bullet in the back of his head. He found his skeleton, and he found his gold under his old church. I don't know. Because at the other site, Richardson there says he found a skeleton, but the skeleton was over. They had to take it to the Smithsonian. It was over 5,000 years old. That would be far older than Larue. So maybe Larue wasn't found up there. Maybe he's found under here. I'm just guessing, but you never know. But then when you go further along from this ruin, covered up a rock structure. Well, if you look here, you've got this ruin, and then this looks like maybe it's an old trail that goes to whatever the heck this is. That looks like a ruin of some kind as well. Church? It's so hard to say, we'll probably never know. Maybe this is the church. Maybe one of these is the church. Maybe Larue is still underneath one of these hidden somewhere. Maybe there are bars of gold underneath here. This is a fantastic lost treasure location. There is so much to explore in here. There's gotta be gold nuggets, gold all over the place in here. If it's not placer, gold bars, so much history, just fantastic. Too bad it's in the middle of the White Sands Missile Range, and we're probably never gonna know. And probably somebody way more powerful than you and me has got here already anyway. Because we know the army was all over Victoria Peak. We know that maybe Lyndon Johnson was in there. Maybe they pillaged Victoria Peak. They took gold out. Did they get gold out of here? Did they follow Larue's treasure? Is it completely gone? The guy who found it under the church took gold bars out. We'll never know the truth, right? One more lost treasure. Lost forever. Kept secret by the government. Or looted by other treasure hunters. Where did all the gold go? Out.